I'm a best boy every day, my friend.
What does the best boy do on a film set? I always laugh. I always juggle in the credits, and I always try to not find the best boy. I'm like, I want to kind of be the best boy.
He just sits there and everybody pets him. It's like,
who's the best boy?
Who's the best boy?
Who's the stress
It's usually
relief?
like a golden retriever. Sexy.
It's day 3 of the podcast. David is still alive. We haven't had to order him an IV to the room yet, which is
Not
great.
yet.
And we have a very special guest that I am excited to introduce. The one, the only, Jason Buff. Jason, thank you for
What
joining
up?
us.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me here on the podcast. It's really nice to be here.
How'd you like my timpani?
I'm just
Edition?
amazed at all the, this is like, I had a podcast many, many years ago, and it was like, nowhere near the complexity that you guys have. This is just amazing. I'm very impressed. So
Season 1, I had no idea what I was doing. I just had a little Zoom,
Yeah.
and I didn't know about audio bleed. And the thousands of dollars I had to spend on an audio engineer to
what?
like fix it.
what's audio bleed?
So like, four of the mics. I remember we were down in Puerto Rico doing it. We're all sitting around a table, and everyone's these mics, they're all piped into the Zoom recorder that
Right.
everyone has, like the H6.
Yeah.
And they're all plugged in, but there's no way to like mix. So like my audio is being picked up over there, so it sounds like an echo chamber when it
Right.
sounds terrible. So someone had to go in and like afterwards mix all 4 levels, and it was it was thousands of dollars. And then
Right.
after that, like long before this thing was invented, we did it analog. So we had an analog mixer, which was like $1,000.
Right.
And you needed to know someone who had a master's degree in all of that to
Yeah.
travel with us
Right.
to do it. And then you still had to pay someone to mix it. But this thing, I don't know, it's been out for like 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah, they're
like anyone can do it. If I can
They're
do
incredible.
this, anyone can do it.
Wow.
and they have like
that's
the
probably.
MIDI keyboard built in, so you can just like do sound effects, change.
Oh,
do
what sound
whatever.
effects do you have? Do you have like funny ones?
Yeah,
in there?
I've been loading them up.
Do you have like a rim shot?
Oh, I don't have a rim shot, but
that would be.
so this one
Yeah,
is
we'll be using that one a lot.
This one is a
today.
lot of like a lot of video games and like like I've been loading that one up, but I always use them at the wrong time, and sometimes it startles the guests. 'cause they're not-
Inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
my middle name.
my father passed away. Blue, yeah. wait, hold on.
I didn't mean to push the level
Sorry,
up one. I meant
sorry.
to push the. Oh,
Where's the? Yeah, that's still inappropriate.
yeah.
So Jason, for the people that don't know you, how would you describe yourself?
I'm dashing. I don't know.
Through the snow?
Yeah, well, people
Strong cleft
tell me
chin.
that I'm. I grow a good beard, and so I'm happy with that. I don't grow a good head of hair. I'm a photographer who primarily shoots in the studio. I've started out trying to work in the film industry, and I'm originally. We'll go back to. I was born in a small town. I was born,
Just a small town boy.
I come from North Carolina, and I lived most of my early years there, and then went straight out after graduating from. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels, and went straight to L.A. I went to San Francisco, and I worked at one of these little video places where they,
Like Blockbuster.
No, is this place called Circle Video? I don't want to throw them under the bus. I don't think they exist anymore. We're talking like 1996. Okay, so
They don't exist.
If they're not
school.
Netflix, they don't exist anymore.
but they were they would do things like depositions and like little local commercials and everything. And I was just like, yeah, I want to work in the biz, So I thought that was like I was getting my foot in working at Circle Video. But I did learn a lot about like After Effects and Photoshop and stuff like that. So every little thing, if you're trying to learn this stuff, as long as you're working kind of in the general field and learning new things. So I actually learned a lot there, even though it was like a terrible job. I was a cameraman for a while. I used to take all kinds of classes on lighting for filmmaking and stuff. And so my my goal was always to be a filmmaker, and still to this day, I kind of consider myself a filmmaker who got sidetracked into becoming a photographer. And I never had any desire to be a photographer because I just thought it was kind of an impossible goal, you know, because just it's so, I don't know, it just seems like it was in a way harder, you know, to like stick out as a photographer, you know, and this is back in like 35 millimeter days, you know, so. So I worked in the film industry, just very kind of.
Were you ever a best boy?
I'm a best boy every day, my friend.
What does the best boy do on a film set? I always laugh. I always juggle in the credits, and I always try to not find the best boy. I'm like, I want to kind of be the best boy.
He just sits there and everybody pets him. It's like, oh,
who's the best boy?
Who's the best boy?
Who's the stress
It's usually
relief?
like a golden retriever
Stress relief.
named, you know, Mike or whatever. But yeah, I basically worked as like a grip. So I would work under the
'cause you get
gaffer.
it.
Yeah. And
Get a grip.
I didn't realize when I went out to LA. I mean, this is also back when you couldn't just make movies on your own, really. You had to like work your way up in the industry.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize was that most of the people in LA are contractors, you know? So it's like basically like,
It's a nice way to describe them.
well, you know, like they do construction and they, you know, like they work in their thing, but they're not like creative people, you know? I mean, there are the creative people, but most of the people out there are people that work under the person and under, you know, so I would work in the editorial department, but I would never like chime in with, oh, maybe you should.
This is how we do
change
shit.
Yeah. They're like, Jason, hey, guy that makes the coffee, come in here and tell us how we should edit this movie. But it was really cool. I would be around, like Roland Emmerich was like in the room beside us, and I was working on a thing, this movie that nobody will have ever seen called The Wood, that was an MTV and Paramount movie back when MTV was a thing. And so I would go in there and just kind of look and watch what everybody was doing. And I had one person tell me, you know, if you want to be a filmmaker, don't do what you're doing, you know, because you're just going to end up working your way up and then maybe becoming an editor.
Great
you
boy.
know. Yeah.
Maybe great boy.
You might be you're a mediocre boy right now. Just work your way up to best boy. So I ended up leaving, and I was like, you know, and also my car got stolen, and there was a whole big police thing.
What kind of a car was it? Was it a Bronco?
Why did you have to ask me that? It was the ugliest teal green Ford Escort.
Oh yeah.
And I saw one recently, and I
Teal
told my
green.
son, I was like driving behind this teal green Escort station wagon.
Oh yeah.
I remember those
Gro-
Crocus station wagons.
Hey,
Yeah.
groceries need to be
Yeah.
gotten.
I told my
concept.
son, I was like, son, that's the car that I had when I was living out in LA. And he was just like, man, that's embarrassing, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. But I thought I was cool. And the guy that I worked with was this guy named Dirk Westervelt, who's now like he edited.
That's a power name.
Yeah.
Dirk Westervelt.
Dirk Westervelt.
Did he command the room then when he walked in?
He's a badass now because
How could you not be with that name?
I think he edited Deadpool. Like
Oh.
he's
Oh.
like up there now.
Yeah.
He edited what was the Wolverine movie? The last
Logan.
one. Logan. He edited Logan. So don't fuck with Dirk Westervelt.
Yeah.
Like, he's
No, I
like,
mean, I wouldn't fuck with him with that name, period.
I'm
He'd just
super
walk
excited.
into the room and I'd be
the
like,
new
"Oh, we're good."
Deadpool bringing back Wolverine. Ooh.
he might have edited that one. Like I always see his name on stuff. And
I'm excited to see John Wick 4.
Yeah. How many bullets do you think he's gonna dodge?
I just want to know how many people are going to die. The body count has been going up significantly with every
he dodges
every
so
season.
many bullets. I
He
don't
takes
get
a
it.
lot of them in the super
Yeah.
bulletproof regular closed vest that
Guess
totally
that's the
exists.
thing, too.
you know.
Yeah.
I guess if we were in the seedy underworld of Las Vegas, we would know about the bulletproof suits.
Yeah. We'll have to ask Rich how the CD under.
Yeah, Rich knows all about the seedy underbelly.
So Rich, who's shooting the 360 part of Pro EDU, he's been talking. This is his first time in Vegas, and maybe you can help us understand. He wants to find the seedy underbelly of Las Vegas, and I keep asking him like, so what is the seedy underbelly? And I don't think he quite knows yet, but it is
I think if you talk about it,
several layers deep.
yeah.
So we're gonna try to find it.
And I keep asking
Maybe
him, how do
later
you know when
tonight
you're
or
know?
tomorrow.
How do you
and I'm
know
like,
when
how do
you're
we
there?
know when we're in it? He goes,
Man.
bro, you know when you're in the underbelly of the place.
You know, and you don't talk about
He's,
it.
he's
You know
we
about
can't
it.
see him, but I'm sure he's giggling right now.
Old Vegas.
Yeah, we asked him about later, like, is it Fremont? But apparently it's below Fremont. We don't know where it is.
And it's not a strip club. It's
not.
like it could start at a strip club, but many things would have to happen after the strip club.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, okay, now we're talking. So it's like,
And
so it's the beginning of a movie.
I can't figure out if it's like we're breaking into a crime spree or we're just like going down in levels of debauchery. I don't know. I don't understand what it is that we're doing here. Like, are we just like exploring the criminal underworld and then seeing how far down we can get, or are we starting just? I don't understand.
I feel like we have to meet some locals who are on an adventure trying to figure something out. We become part of their plan or their story, and then we help them. Maybe I don't know.
Like it's the Odyssey or something. Like
friends become enemies, and
the hero
friends.
the hero comes rolling in, and then we're like the NPCs in the game.
There's got to be at least
it never
3
works out well for the
close
NPCs.
calls. Yeah.
Never.
I think you got to start by just being somebody's bitch.
I need to be the primary. I need to be
Pulp
the star.
Fiction. Yeah.
I need to be the primary role so I don't die.
All right, so back to photography. Sorry, tangent. All right.
Well, that was a nice tangent. We're back now.
It was an acute.
Welcome back to the
tangent.
show.
If we didn't have one of those at least twice in an episode, it wouldn't be a real episode.
So
John Wick.
Where do you live and where do you work?
Well, I live in a small town. Well, actually, it's everybody thinks that I live kind of like in the middle of like this little pueblo, and like I ride my horse to work or whatever. But I live in a city called Merida, in Yucatan, and I mean, to give you an idea, it's like we have. I mean, this isn't. We have like 5 Walmarts. I don't know if that's like
5 of them.
A way to judge. We have like 5 Sam's Clubs. We probably have 10 Walmarts.
10 Walmarts?
10 Sam's Clubs, 20 Walmarts. We have Starbucks. It's like a very modern
What's
city.
Sam's Club in Mexico like?
It's like I don't know. I don't know what Sam's Club is like in the U.S. I've never been.
Well, oftentimes they do. The thing I like about the Sam's Club or Costco, they have Mexican Coke. In the glass bottles,
right? It has a Coke from Mexico, yeah.
So do they not have Mexican Coke down there? Is it just American Coke?
Oh, they have Mexican Coke down there.
I don't know. Well,
we don't want to get into that.
If it's a true Bizarro world, they would have American Coke in the cans, not the glass bottles.
They do.
I think it's just called Coke down there.
Yeah. It's just like, are you going to have
they're
Mexican
like, hey,
food
give
or
me
you
a
just
Mexican
having
Coke,
food?
and they're like,
Yeah.
it's
Just
redundant.
a Coke, yeah.
Like we're Americans too. We once had we were doing a workshop and we had some Brazilians come up. I don't know how we got talking about it. And I go, it's an American thing. He goes, we're Americans too. We're from South America. I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. I was like, you identify as American? I'm like, I'm pretty sure when you say American, people don't think of South Americans, right?
No.
Yeah. But he was offended by us
have
claiming all of America.
I mean, we do that all the time. We will be like, well, we're North Americans then. And then we forget about Canada and forget about Mexico and like, it's whatever.
The problem is, here's the problem. They
American.
never established a name for somebody from the United States. So you can't say I'm a United Statesian. You can't say I'm a Mexican, or you can't say I'm a Canadian.
We claimed American. We're like,
yeah,
no
so
one
we
else.
just say we're American because it's like,
Stole it like everything else.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's how we got everything. We just rolled in and said that shit's ours now.
Yeah, well, it's like, most of that, we just kind of like, screw the rest of the world. We're kind of like the center of everything. Hi, everybody.
and speak our language, damn it.
All right. So how did you decide to move to Mexico?
Oh, I just like, I mean, I live with like tons and tons of stress. Like I'm a big basket case of anxiety. So I have really bad ADD and all kinds of, I'm sprinkled with the tisms. So, it's like I never fit in with like the kind of 9-to-5 world. And it was a different world. I went down there when it was 2002. So, things weren't the way they are now with the internet and with, whatever. Anyway.
Damn it.
God. Start over. But I went down there and it was really funny because one of the reasons why I went was a friend of mine told me, really the only way that you can learn another language is to go to a place where they don't speak your language. And you're forced to, like, there's some animal instinct in your brain that's like survival that makes you like say, okay, I'm going to have to learn this language or I'm not going to be able to buy some beer. The important things.
Yeah, it kicks in real quick. Wait, no cerveza?
But yeah,
We're gonna learn it.
I met my wife like the second month I was there. I saw this girl sitting across from me at the bar.
What was the light like? Describe the light.
I was like,
that was happening.
buenos dias, señorita. And she was like, I really am not interested at all.
She respond back in English?
Yeah, she speaks perfect English. And I was like, ¿Cómo estás? And she was like, no. My name is no. Just keep walking. And I persisted. And actually, she brought me home that night. And like, no, I mean, not, Yucatecans are very, very, conservative. So she took me home in her car and gave me a fake number. There's actually a card that she gave me that had a fake number. And then she was like, all right, I think one of the problems was that she didn't believe my name was Buff. I was like,
does it mean something silly and like?
No, but she was just like, what? That's not a name. She's like, that's really Buff. I guess she was like seeing the future where like she might have to
adopt
that name. No, I told her the first night I met her, I was like, you should get used to that name because that's going to be yours one day, And
the night.
That night. The first night I met her.
He's moving in straight
When
off
you
with
know, you
confidence.
know.
I knew like right from that moment that this was like, well, I think I pretty much, I was a little drunk. I mean, I was feeling kind of, kind of flirty.
When you know, you know.
Yeah, but anyway, so she ended up kind of like distant, not calling me back and not like wanting to have anything to do with me. She ghosted me before ghosting was even like a word. And then one night, apparently she called my house. I was living with a family, and it was like she called in the middle of the night at like 3 o'clock drunk. I don't know if she was drunk. I assume she was drunk, but her name came up in the little thing.
We have a word for this one now too.
What?
Getting called in the middle of the night by a drunk person.
What is it?
It's a booty call.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
okay.
She wanted some booty. So
See?
anyway,
There he is.
Some boofy.
she wanted some of that buff. It's just like I got a hankering for some buff right now.
Trying to get buffed out.
Wake up in the middle of the night, like
Buff on, buff off.
But she didn't know that the person that I lived with this like old couple, so we're not talking like I was living in like a hip place or anything. I was literally living with two old, probably in their 70s or 80s, and they rented a room to me there, and she was like, there's a phone call last night, and I think it was from this girl that you were talking about. And I was like, really? And so I called her and I was like, hey, I think you called me. And she's going to love that. And hopefully she'll never hear this because she denies this to this day. I was like, I think you called me at like 3 o'clock in the morning last night. And she was like, no, that wasn't me. Why would I call you at 3 in the morning? And I was like, well, there's a caller ID that says the hour and it has your name on it. And she was like, quiet. And she was like, oh.
It wasn't me.
It's like, I guess my sister called or something. I must have butt dialed you or something. But yeah, so we've been together. That was 2002. We've been together, all that time. So it's been over 20 years.
So what's the Yucatan like?
Yucatan's amazing. The only problem with Yucatan is the heat, and the heat is like unbearable. So people that go down there, it was really interesting because when I first got down there, everybody, like all the expats, like we're talking like 2002, there was an expat party, and almost everybody who was in the expat community could fit at a table. And now there's literally thousands and thousands, and just tons of people from Canada, from US, from Europe, and it's just become like, you can't move in traffic anymore. It's gotten out of control. And I don't really, and most of those people, the good thing about it is they kind of renovated downtown, and downtown's a lot more hip, like a lot of places. But yeah, when I first went down there, I really felt like I was like one of the only, I didn't even hear English for a long time, unless I was with my wife. I would be like with her family or whatever, and just picked it up. And one day you're just like, oh, I'm speaking, And the really interesting thing about Yucatan, if I can go into it, is that people still speaks Mayan down there.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you go down, the way that Yucatecans speak is very, very like, the accent is based kind of on the Mayan accent. So they have this really interesting way of talking. And if you go into really isolated areas, Spanish is the second language. The first language is Mayan. And so if you watch the new Wakanda Forever,
Oh yeah,
They're
I saw it.
speaking Yucatec and Mayan.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Even though nothing that they show in that movie is accurate towards
bet.
like Yucatan, it's like people living in huts and stuff, and it's like, yeah, literally
Insulting.
well,
Yeah.
it's it's pretty much insulting the way that they show Mexico in pretty much every. They put that yellow haze filter.
Oh yeah.
And it's like
Yep.
there is that, but there's a lot more going on.
What was that movie that did that big the first time in Mexico? Everything was yellow, then everything here was blue, and there was
I
was
think
it something
maybe
about
Sicario
Yeah,
might have
so I
been one
think
of
it's
those.
Sicario.
yeah. All right, so what's the craziest thing that's happened? So there's a lot of old history in the Yucatan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is this where the pyramids are at?
Yeah.
Have you ever met someone down there that has seen aliens?
So
and know about it?
you want to know the
Yeah, I want to get into the
underground shit.
underbelly of Yucatan.
Okay, so this is an exclusive, guys, but there are aliens. That
Yeah,
live
100%. All right, I'm
underneath
glad you're pro alien.
Okay, so yeah, we've come in contact with. There's a lot of like weird shit, but I can't really talk about the true.
You can't tell us about the Yukon unless we go.
There are
We gotta
people.
go.
There are people who will find out, and they'll take me out.
All right.
They'll
Fair enough.
put me back up in the ship.
Oh,
No, but really, there's a lot of. It's a very superstitious culture. My wife is very, she's. It's really cool. I'm not like into much of that, but there is a lot of that down there. Of kind of magical thinking and stuff. And that's. I think that's in most of like the Latin American world is like, it's kind of a mixture of religions and kind of magical thinking and, whatever.
well, it's like they basically were the first to do the whole mushrooms. Like it came from there, and then we went down there and ruined it.
Is that right?
Well, yeah. So I guess it was the early 50s or 40s.
Right.
There was rumors of a village in Mexico, and they were using mushrooms for medicine and rituals and ceremony. And so, like a writer went down there and tried it for the first time, then brought him back, and it was like they wrote like a 4 or 6 page. It was People magazine or Life magazine, one of the only like big magazines.
Right.
Had like a 6-page spread.
You might want to explain what magazines are.
Yeah.
To the listening audience.
For those
They
listening,
used to be like these things that were on your iPad, except you didn't have to swipe to turn. Well, you just kind of had to lift the whole page.
Yep, they stuck together depending on the magazine.
I mean,
you had.
depending on the magazine.
Yeah.
You
So
know
anyway,
what I love about digital magazines is though they've made that animation where like
I bet
you're
you
pulling the
like
page
that.
up and turning it. That's so weird.
Simple man.
Just flip it.
Simple man. So anyway, then they were brought back, and now,
The rest is history.
well, they kind of like everyone went down to this village and kind of ruined the village, and the lady ended up committing suicide because all the villagers hated her and blamed her for all the gringos coming down and
Right.
kind of trashing everything.
Why don't you play like a funny sound effect there? That would be a good moment.
Bro, killed it.
Damn, you did kill it.
He didn't.
rough.
He
That was
definitely-
rough.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
No
was
reverence.
inappropriate.
too soon.
Way too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's basically all of like Mexico is like that foreigners came in and kind of screwed it up, but whatever. The interesting thing too there is that it's a very
Not him as a foreigner, other foreigners.
other
Yeah, well,
foreigners.
he's
yeah.
local.
No, I'm
he's,
cool.
he's not a gringo.
He is now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do they call
I
you
try to fit
gringo?
in.
Gringo.
If
Jason?
I wasn't 6'4" and about a foot, at least a foot taller than everybody, even the tallest people, I don't like. I'm kind of weird around people like speaking English when I'm down there. So it used to be that I felt very kind of like I was in my own little world down there. Now I go to Costco, and you'll hear like, "Look over here, honey." And I'm just like, "No, come on, no, go away." And they'll just talk to people down there just in English, and they're just like, can you tell me what? And they're just like, no entiendo. ¿Qué estás? They're like, why are you talking to me in English? This is Mexico. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Quick way to get kidnapped.
privilege down there.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of kidnapping in Yucatan. Yucatan's pretty chill with that stuff. My wife thinks I'm very naive though. So there's if you want to know like the real secret stuff, she's the one that kind of knows like what's really going on. Because she just looks at me like I'm like a baby who's just like, yeah, well, that doesn't happen, and we can just like leave the house with the door open. It's okay. And she's like, no, we will be robbed. But
They're usually right.
But it's funny because a lot of the people that have come down there to live, they have no idea what's going on either. They just think, oh, it's this sweet culture and all these little happy people, and they're very kind of condescending. And it's like there's a whole
Underbelly.
You guys know the freaking underbelly.
I don't know. I want bacon though.
We're really interested.
I want the underbelly of a pig. I could go for some bacon right now. We didn't have breakfast.
That's the most ADD podcast I've ever been.
Yeah, we don't have.
Well,
we have
well,
no.
Speaking of
we
bacon,
We have no agenda. All right, so photography.
hard facts.
Photography.
What was there a
There's
question?
a camera, lights. You do it. You create.
Yeah,
it.
I occasionally will, do what we call this the photography.
Oh, I know a good question. Socks and sandals, yes or no?
It really depends if it's
Yep.
cold or not.
Oh, see?
It doesn't depend.
And depends on how cool your socks are.
It doesn't depend. You don't wear chanclas with socks. You
Where are you going though?
Choclas?
chanclas.
Chunklas. What are chunklas?
They're flip flops.
The old man flip flops?
Chanclas are what your Mexican moms throw at you to freaking beat you when you're doing something stupid.
Oh wow, who's this
Chancla.
character?
Yeah.
Chunkla, huh?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Is that a word you ever heard?
No, he just made that up.
Yeah.
No,
thank you.
okay.
I think you're thinking of. I think you're thinking of Choco.
No.
And you added a few words,
No.
letters in there.
No.
David's the king at adding letters into words or switching one. It's great. He loves it.
Yeah, chanclas are like flip flops.
Oh, so it is a thing.
Of course, it's a thing.
That's not a word. Ant, do you have like an ant button over there for?
Let's see. No, I mean we could do this one. Now you guys go for it.
if you screw up around a Mexican mom, and you will be, she'll be beating you with your chanclas.
All right, so you teach a lot of workshops, and this is something that you travel around and do.
Right, I can get my hooks into this question.
Yeah, let's
do it.
That's it. Go take it from there.
Okay.
Talk about your workshops.
I do workshops, so if you want to learn photography, I teach you kind of how to do that.
That was a good sales pitch. I kind of teach you how to do that.
Well, I mean, a guy asked me the other day, he's like, where do you put your flash? And I was like, you just move it until it looks cool. And it's like, oh, okay, thanks, man. It's like, yeah, see ya.
What's
Like,
the number
it's
one
not-
question that people have in workshops?
What's that preset that you use to get that look?
What's your shutter speed right
yeah,
now?
what's my
What's your shutter speed at?
it's weird because I teach in a very different way. I never planned on becoming a teacher, and it sounds cheesy or whatever, but like whenever I would work with people, I just was doing it kind of as a hobby when I first started, and I just really wanted to get good, but I would also get excited about what I was doing. So I would share it with the person. I'd be working with some model or some just random person or whatever, and I'd be explaining what I was doing, and they could have, they were just like, why are you telling me all this? And so another guy was with me one day, and he was like, why aren't you teaching this? You are very natural, you just have a natural excitement for it. I was like,
Good question.
nobody's, thank you. I said,
Good answer.
I said
nobody would ever go to a class that I was teaching. Who am I? I don't know any of this. I mean, it's just a hobby. It's just something I enjoy doing. People go to these big name people or whatever. So, and I wasn't really making any money as a photographer at the time. I was just doing it as for fun. And I decided one day, one thing that actually kind of made me want to do it was I went to a really bad workshop, and that gave me some confidence.
Names? Who was it?
This was a guy I will, I'll never tell you, but
Do something that rhymes with his name.
I keep looking at the camera.
Yeah, that's good.
Hi, folks.
Yeah.
Give me on camera B here. Okay, let me
Camera B?
Let me
Zoom in. Zoom in. Too close. Too
right
close.
here, right here, right here.
This sounds like
Punch in?
avoidance of the answer.
No,
It rhymes with.
no, I won't
you
even
don't-
do that.
yeah.
I've gotten in trouble in the
and-
past with that.
Yeah.
I don't name names.
We're not that type of podcast.
Yeah,
We like.
I love everybody.
I like to throw myself. This is a self-deprecating podcast.
Yeah.
You throw anyone on the bus, better be yourself, or David.
I'm always fair game.
Yeah.
It was this PRO EDU class that I took, and I was like, if I could do that, I
They're the
could
worst.
I could
They
nail
are.
that.
They're the worst.
It's like this guy doesn't know.
Who do they think
talking
they
about
are?
At all.
I don't know.
But canceled.
Canceled.
Well, we've had fun talking to you, Jason, today.
And our next topic. I just have that one listed as transition.
And now
News subject.
we're
Right.
back. No, but seriously, I would like watch people like I when I first got into Photoshop. I'm, you know, there was no like internet videos that you could watch. You know, I mean, I feel like an old man talking. It's like back in my day, you know,
Yeah.
we didn't have
Back in
video.
1902.
We had Real Player, and you know, you couldn't watch like tutorials online and everything. So I ordered this thing called Total Training, which doesn't exist anymore. And it was this gigantic pack of VHS cassettes.
Nice.
And it was right around the time eBay had just started, Amazon had just started. So, and I was totally broke. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy these VHS cassettes. I'm going to watch them because it was like $200. And then I'm going to sell them back on eBay and basically have a free education with Photoshop. And I just like, that was completely life-changing for me. You know, I just sat there and I was like, I know that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to, you know, and at the time I was a graphic designer. There was no relationship between Photoshop in my mind and photography. It was all about doing, you know, I do these cheesy, like, if you remember like early 2000 websites that would have like that gel bar, you know, and everything was kind of three-dimensional, and you would make everything kind of a little transparent and everything. And I was the king of making these cheesy websites where, you know, Flash, I would do a lot of Flash.
Yep.
And like,
Thank God
you know,
that's dead.
Intros, you know, I was the king. I was like, I put all my money down on that. I was like, I'm going to be a Flash animator. And I'm going to, you know, when this thing develops, it's going to turn into filmmaking and whatever. And so I learned ActionScript. And they immediately changed that to another, like, you know, they had a programming language. And I was really into Photoshop and just like would work with, you know, became a graphic designer for a lot of years. And the nice thing about that was I could just work wherever I was at. That's what enabled me to move to Mexico, was I could just do that, you know, from whatever, you know, when I moved down to Mexico, I actually had to go and buy a really long telephone line. And at night, like Jabu Studio, which is my company, .com.
.com.
But that started at that little house with that old couple, and I would sneak the telephone line into my room and connect to the internet at night, and I would upload and download like graphic design projects that I had done, you know.
When they got the internet bill, how pissed were they the first month?
They didn't do anything because it was just, you know, like it was AOL, you know. So
so
you
you-
put that disc in,
Okay.
and you would just have AOL, and then I would just connect, and there was no like cable line or anything. There were no modems then. There wasn't even Wi-Fi didn't even exist then, you know.
It was just through the phone line, yeah.
Just through the phone line, and you'd hear that weird noise, and that was like how I started out. And for years I would work with Photoshop. And so when it finally came, like when I started to feel more comfortable with jumping into photography, it was like I already had 20 years of using Photoshop. And so when I would watch people do tutorials and stuff who were like photographers who kind of tagged on the Photoshop, you know, they kind of learned it after they learned the photography. I was always like, there's a better way to do that. You know, like maybe you're not seeing the way that you can like use this for that or whatever. And so I was like, well, I can teach that way. You know, I can teach Photoshop. I was a really mediocre photographer, but I could make my stuff look really cool for the time. It looks terrible now, but I could make it look really cool in Photoshop, you know? So that became a really long story. Sorry.
No, it's good.
I'm trying to keep it interesting. So
No,
just be like, next. I tend to ramble.
And next up. All right, so Jason, let's talk about, we've got something in the works. Let's
Yep.
talk about it.
Very exciting.
So we're going to, at the point now, we are creating 3 projects, and it might change a little bit, but the first one is all about continuous light. That's something that we're in pre-production and planning now. How are you feeling about this?
Oh man, I feel so good.
Right?
It just feels right.
We're just going to explore everything with continuous light, which we've actually been talking about a lot
With a
in the
lot of
last
people.
like 7 episodes. It's become so accessible and
Yeah.
just so fun and just cheaper to use.
and not as hot.
And not as hot. I've burnt my finger. I can't feel anything in my left hand because of the hot Ari lights.
Oh, so I have some of like
Oh,
those.
that would explain the claw that you have there.
I have some of those like old school Mole Richardsons in my studio, like
Right.
the huge ones. And
Yeah.
you turn those dudes on, and man, like you don't
it's
need
hot.
a heater.
Yeah.
They're hot.
And the smell is just
Oh yeah,
delicious.
yeah, it's really yummy.
You can just put like some bacon on there and
Yeah. Yeah.
a leg of lamb.
But now, with all the LEDs,
Where did all these
everything's-
people come from?
Everything's getting cheap.
Oh,
So-
so now is this the sexy portion of the?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we're gonna.
What are
take
you
it down.
the most excited about? What are you gonna? How are you gonna package up everything you know about your workshops and turn it into this?
Well,
this
Gary,
massive
I'm glad
tutorial?
you asked me that question because I've
Off
given
to
it a
you.
lot of thought.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure, but I want to do something that's a little different than what I feel like there's a lot of things that are important to me that I never see in workshops and things like that. So the thing that I love about continuous light is, it used to be that in order to get a good CRI value, I believe that's the term, which is basically like how well the light, reflecting, usually I say these things and then
C is
like,
for crunchy, right? How crunchy it is.
yeah, the C is for crunchy,
Yep.
J is for Jax. But, it's like the LED technology with companies like nanlight.com. They have enabled you to get really beautiful images. And the nice thing about it is you can light more kind of like you're lighting for like cinema or something,
Yeah.
so you can actually see what you're working with and bounce light around and stuff. And I love Flash. I mean, I've worked with Flash for years, but the problem with Flash that I run into is just that it's always a surprise, You never
Unless
really,
you're David. David knows exactly what's going to happen when he puts the lights up. He's like, I know exactly what's going to happen.
you guys
One and done.
just watch.
One and done.
Watch the magic.
That should be one of the fun videos we make.
Is it one and done?
No, yeah, we'll pair you two together, and David gets to set up lights and pre-explain how it's going to look.
Yeah.
And we'll see. He only gets maybe like 3 shots
To dial in,
to get it dialed in, and
only
we'll see
need
how
one.
long it takes him.
I need one.
See, he thinks he needs 1.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Let's bring it.
I don't think so. So
I need about 100.
that's what I was saying the other day. I
It's
was
my
like,
light, my
with,
modifier choice. Yeah.
with
I'd do it
continuous
one.
light, I was saying it. You're probably gonna spend less time capture, look, figure it out, move it.
Yeah, I think the continuous light. It's just those micro adjustments to get things feathered the right way, and you're good.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to the quality of the pictures you want to take. So, if you're one and done, that's fine. But,
Yeah. No.
hey,
some
Sometimes it's about
people are
efficiency.
okay with that.
You fit right in on this podcast. You just stay around all day.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, maybe I will.
Yeah.
know.
we should do it. We got another one coming up soon in 10 minutes.
another one.
Let's just keep
God.
them. Let's just keep them.
Let's keep him here.
Sounds like a good idea that we didn't plan out earlier.
There's no way we've already talked about this.
God.
Okay. So, what was the question again?
Oh, there
Constant
wasn't.
light?
Constant light. It's you turn it on and it's on, and then you turn it off and it's off. So yeah.
One of the things that's nice in a workshop, though, is that like you're not constantly having to deal with like triggers and stuff. So you can kind of work with it. Like,
Is that why they call them constant lights? You're not constantly dealing with triggers. Sorry, these jokes.
is there a sound effect for that?
Yes. Yes.
I could just. I mean, I'd be happy just to listen to the sound effects the whole time.
You know what? I'm going to give you this for the next one. You go crazy just based off of what I labeled it.
My friend, whenever we're talking, we get on Clubhouse sometimes because we're both kind of autistic, both of us. So whenever I start going off into one of my kind of autistic rants or whatever, he'll just play a sound effect on there. He's like, okay, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
Land the plane.
It's like
Come
the
on,
Chappelle
man.
wrap it up sound.
Yeah.
They start
The
playing
Oscar
it.
music.
My
Oscar
friend,
music,
they'll
yeah.
be like, okay, the plane's coming around. So you're going to land that plane. The story just keeps going on and on.
That was good. No, that was not that good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was poor timing on that
Our
one.
audience is really gonna love this.
Yeah, this. Well, I say we wrap this one up. We get ready for the next one, and we see how we let Jason loose on the next podcast.
With he hasn't come out of his shell yet.
Well, I'm working on new material.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
is
okay.
like I gotta put
That was the
together my
warm-up.
hour.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Well, that's all for today's podcast. Join us next time for more interesting discussion about the wonderful world of photography and her dark magical secrets. I'm fascinated with Instagram. It's such a simple construct. Just take a picture and post it on the internet. The other day, I took a picture of my neighbor's pet rabbit. He told me not to post it, but, I did anyway. Wow.